hi, please like and subscribe to this channel, as well as comment so I can build a community of resistance fighters based on the snarky irreverence I displayed by videos.
A final update to the onboard computers for antenna management, and we have a go for auto sequence starts. And we have auto sequence starts. 4, 3, 2, 1.
This segment originally was supposed to be part of a prior video that I have already uploaded regarding the similarities between ICE as a paramilitary group and the German SA and SS during and before World War II. The video about the SS had some technical problems that had to be removed from the video. I'm now redoing the video section on the SS, and I am putting it into a separate video with some of the same elements as the video about the SA. So here is the history of the SS, and I will go ahead and cross-section that video about the SA and cross-reference it in this video so that they can be linked up. First, we are going to do a little bit of framing here by showing what some of the ICE violence has looked like over the last several months. And then we're going to do a history on how the SA and the SS were formed in Germany. And then after that, we will embark on a history lesson regarding exactly how the Jews in Germany went from being accepted first-class citizens to ending up in concentration camps.
Oh my God.
That was really cool, guys. You guys are super cool for that. Wow. Big tough guys. Big tough man. Thank you. Big tough guys. Big tough guys. Big tough guys. She's getting her sign. She's getting her sign. You'll get it, boy. Give me your sign now. Give me your sign.
Did you fall down? Come here,
guys, stay back, right?
Come here.
You're gonna need.
Yeah, you're gonna need.
You already got me earlier. You have to. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. Get her up. Get her up. Get her up. We're not threatening anyone. We're not threatening anyone. We're not threatening anyone. Move out. Move out. Move out. How is she supposed to move? Let's go.
You pussy ass! Really? Hey! Oh my God!
No American cop could get away with that.
Fucking bitch! I bet your mom's real fucking proud of you!
During Hitler's rise to power, there was a group that played an extremely significant and brutal part in his rise to the position of Führer. The SA were integral to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, and their violent antics would be pivotal in establishing Nazi rule over Germany. In this video, we'll look at who were the SA, who were their key leaders and individuals, the history of the group, and much more. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Firstly, let's look at what SA actually means. It stands for Sturmabteilung, which in German means Storm Detachment. The foundation of the SA actually predates the formation of the Nazi Party, interestingly, and it was an older establishment. When World War I came to a conclusion in 1918 and Germany surrendered, there were a number of independent paramilitary groups or units that plagued the defeated country. These were known as the Freikorps and were made up of prominently First World War veterans who had returned from combat. The Freikorps fought against communism and other groups that they believed were to blame for the German defeat of the conflict. The groups were very popular, with an estimated 400,000 men involved in their paramilitary activity by 1921. One of these was known as the Turn- und Sportabteilung, or the Gymnastics and Sport Division, based in Bavaria. This would later be rebranded into the Sturmabteilung or SA. The SA would become deeply entrenched and associated with the German Workers' Party, which also saw a rebrand into the more historically notorious Nazi Party under the leadership of Hitler. At the time, speaking in public about politics was a rather dangerous thing to do in Germany, so the original task of the SA was to protect their prized asset Adolf Hitler, as such speeches and gatherings would often attract communists, the SA's enemies, and would result in ferocious brawls and violence. This would play into Hitler's hands, as the members of the SA were made up mostly of old military, who certainly knew how to handle themselves, and they knew how to deal with these events when it kicked off. When fights would break out, the police under the Weimar government were usually unable to cope and were powerless, and it would be the SA who would restore law and order. This would give Hitler vital ammunition in his speeches, claiming that the Weimar government lacked leadership and power to govern the country effectively, saying he was the one person who could restore Germany to greatness and control law and order. Funnily enough, it would be the members of the SA who were frequently breaking the law, however their power on the streets was huge. They seemed to get their own way, and under the leadership of their charismatic speaker, the SA looked like an attractive proposition to many people in Germany. In August 1921, the Nazi Party newspaper, Der Volkische Beobachter, called for young men to join the SA, declaring them to join the fight against the foreign races that were intent on destroying Germany. In March 1923, interestingly, Hermann Göring would become the leader of the SA, which at this point had around 3,000 members in and around the Munich area. Göring would later be appointed to the position of an SA Gruppenführer and would maintain this until officially the end of the Second World War. As mentioned earlier, one of the key parts of the SA's responsibility was the organising of Nazi events. One of their first activities was the Munich Beer Hall Putsch, which took place on November 8, 1923. The Putsch was a failed coup in which Hitler tried to seize control of the Bavarian government. During the Putsch, 2,000 members of the Nazi Party were marching to the Feldherrnhalle in the city centre when they were confronted by the police. This resulted in the deaths of 16 Nazi Party members and 4 police officers. Hitler would be wounded in the clashes, as would Göring, and although a failure, this brought Hitler to the attention of the Germans and the worldwide press. Adolf Hitler had now become a name people had known about. After this, Hitler was leniently imprisoned in Landsberg. He went to work on Mein Kampf. However, the German government would ban any Nazi Party organisations, activities, and this would lead to the formal dissolution of the SA. Whilst Hitler was in prison, the SA was reorganised into a group called the Front Bahn. Whilst the Führer was in prison, Ernst Röhm, an early Nazi Party member, had been given the authority to rebuild the SA. Röhm would continue to organise paramilitary groups and attempted to join multiple sympathetic groups together from across Germany within the Front Bahn. This would be unpopular with the Führer, however Röhm would later go on to be the leader of the SA in 1931. Following Hitler's release from jail, The SA would be formally re-established in February 1925, and in 1926, 6,000 stormtroopers or SA would participate in a Nazi Party rally. By 1930, the group were gaining huge numbers, with the membership swelling to around 60,000. Following the catastrophic events of the Great Depression, with the effects being felt harshly in Germany, anger grew, and in 1932 there were well over 400,000 members. And when Hitler was in power, the number would grow to 4 million. As the SA's numbers grew, the organisation continued to embrace violence, and their legacy would be remembered for this. Members would aggressively interfere with meetings of political parties or groups who opposed their beliefs. They would raid these meetings, fight with other paramilitaries, influence elections to a huge degree by intimidation, and would also go on to intimidate groups such as Jews, Roma Gypsies and Communists. They believed these people were the enemies of Germany, and they would be extremely violent and brutal towards them. In 1933, members of the SA would ransack the local offices of Social Democrats, and one Social Democrat was beaten to death. Also, another incident involved 8 SA members shooting an ex-band leader of a communist music group. Ernst Röhm's leadership, however, led to the group to become much better organised. His plan was for the SA to absorb and replace the German military once Hitler became in power, but Röhm had a flaw. His devotion was purely to the Nazi ideology and cause, rather than a personal veneration towards the Führer.
Ah, damn.
When Hitler became Chancellor in January 1933, the size and strength of the SA under the leadership of Röhm became a huge problem for Hitler. He would find himself with a large group who were possibly more loyal to Röhm than they would be to him. Also, the acts of brutality and violence carried out by the SA were an issue, and Hitler would want to distance himself from this and establish himself as a proper head of state when he got into that position. During 1 week, for example, the SA would have clashes with Social Democrats, which led to the deaths of 3 SA members, and in retaliation, the SA tortured more than 500 men, with 91 of these dying. The SA's ability to wield violence on a mass scale was terrifying, and Röhm began to talk of a second revolution to go along with the Nazi one. This led Hitler to grow suspicious of Röhm, and he deemed the SA at this point to be too powerful and as an internal threat to the Nazi Party and himself. Röhm would also go on to criticise Hitler in public, at one point accusing Hitler of being rotten and betraying the SA. This ultimately sealed his death warrant. In June 1934, the Night of the Long Knives occurred after being organised by Hitler and his top advisors. This was a huge purge of the SA that led to the massacre of many of its leaders, with many being shot by the newer organisation, the Heinrich Himmler-led SS. With this night, many of Hitler's other enemies were also murdered, and in particular, Ernst Röhm was. During this purge, at least 85 members of the SA died, including their leader. However, it's been estimated that this figure could even be as high as 1,000. Hitler had got what he wanted. He had brutally suppressed the organisation and brought them into line, showcasing his supremacy and ultimate power. Following the Night of the Long Knives, the SA was in limbo. In 1935, a major reorganisation took place, and men aged between 18 and 35 were sent into service with the German military. The SS have a reputation of being Hitler's most loyal and fierce Nazi organisation. They were initially established as Hitler's personal bodyguard unit. Later on, they would become the elite force of the Nazi Reich and would carry out all the security-related business without a regard for anything. They are remembered in history for being the perpetrators of history's worst crime, the Holocaust. Today we look briefly at the infamous SS. The SS, or Schutzstaffel, was staffed by those men who perceived themselves to be racially elite, or of the Nazi ideal. Hitler longed for the creation of an Aryan race, a race which was made up of pure Germans and who would go on to secure the future of the Third Reich for centuries to come. In 1925, Hitler established the SS, however at the time they were under the rule of the Chief of Staff, or the SA. The SA was known as Hitler's brown shirts or stormtroopers. They were instrumental to the rise of the Nazi Party. They operated outside the law and used violent methods of intimidation to strike fear amongst Germany's left population and the Jews living in Germany. It was independent from the army and it was led by Ernst Röhm. The SA took inspiration from Mussolini's black shirts and they acted as a security force at rallies and helped perpetuate Hitler's political ideas. The SA was hugely instrumental after the Beer Hall Putsch, and they took part in violent clashes against communists throughout the 1920s and 30s. Also at this time, their numbers grew massively. The SA ultimately became too powerful for Adolf Hitler's liking. To secure a cleaner ascension to the role of Führer, he could not be associated with the bloody acts of thuggery that the SA were known for. On June 30th, 1934, the Night of the Long Knives occurred, in which there was a bloody purge within the SA ranks, in which all senior brown shirts were either arrested or executed, with leader Ernst Röhm being executed too. It was the SS who carried out these acts on the orders of Adolf Hitler. From 1929, the SS was headed by the infamous Heinrich Himmler. Himmler had a reputation of being a racist fanatic who became obsessed with the occult. He built the SS up from less than 300 members to more than 50,000 by the time the Nazis came to power in 1933. Himmler screened all of the applicants for their perfection physically and also for their racial purity. However, he did recruit from all classes of German society. He kitted the SS out with sleek black uniforms and gave them special insignia and symbols linked to the occult. For example, a lightning strike with a runic SS. Also, he gave them Death's Head badges and silver daggers. The Death's Head would become a chilling symbol of the SS. Following the Night of the Long Knives, the SS became an independent group responsible to Hitler alone via Himmler. Together with Reinhard Heydrich, Himmler gained control of all of Germany's police forces, making the SS even more powerful. Throughout this time, special military units of SS soldiers were trained and equipped along with the regular German army. By 1939, the SS had around 250,000 men, divided into two groups, the Allgemeine SS, the General SS, and the Waffen SS, the Armed SS. SS men were lectured and schooled on racial hatred, and had developed immunity from human suffering. The greatest trait an SS man would have would be to have complete obedience and loyalty to Adolf Hitler. The SS was built on a culture of violence and brutality, which was exhibited in its most extreme form by the mass murder of civilians and prisoners of war. The Einsatzgruppen operated under the control of the SS. These were groups of paramilitary death squads that were responsible for mass killings. Two such examples of this was the Baba Yar massacre, which killed over 33,000 Jews, and the Rumbula massacre that killed an estimated 25,000 Jews. It is estimated that of the Jewish victims of the Holocaust, 40% of those were killed in the mass shootings by the Einsatzgruppen or the SS. These shootings were often local and public, with witnesses seeing the cruelty. The Germans would press these people into aiding the extermination by forcing them to dig their graves or to drive wagons. They would also confiscate property and loot their victims.
Sick fucks.
The victims of the Einsatzgruppe were not just Jews, with gypsies and Soviet communists also perishing under their cruelty. In 1941, Himmler noticed the psychological effects that the shootings were having on his soldiers, so requested a more convenient method of killing to be developed. This would become the gas van that would later develop into the gas chambers. By the spring of 1943, the Einsatzgruppen had killed over 1 million Soviet Jews and tens of thousands of Soviet commissars, partisans, gypsies and disabled people. Later the SS would be involved in the organisation of concentration camps and would become the guards in these camps, carrying out even more horror and evil. By 1944, it is estimated that membership numbers in the SS had risen to 800,000. After being captured in 1945, Himmler committed suicide via cyanide poisoning. Following the defeat of Nazi Germany, the SS was declared a criminal organisation by the Nuremberg trials in 1946. Additional trials were conducted following Nuremberg, and many SS members attempted to escape justice by stating that they were merely following orders, of which the court did not find this a legitimate defence. A trial of 40 SS officers and guards from Auschwitz took place in November 1947, and most were found guilty, with 23 receiving the death penalty. It is estimated also that 37,000 members of the SS were tried and convicted in Soviet courts, with the sentences including hanging and long terms of hard labour. Some escaped and fled to South America, including the notorious Adolf Eichmann. Today the SS are known to have been one of the most evil organisations ever created. Initially beginning as a bodyguard unit, its place in history is remembered for its evil and callous killing, its violence and intimidation of civilians, and also the innocent.
And now stay tuned for a special little treat regarding how the United States in World War II used to handle the SS.
I could have killed them myself with my bare hands, I swear.
They were SS anyhow. They were thugs. SS were thugs.
Yeah. The word was passed down to us from Army headquarters. Don't take any SS prisoners. And boy, we didn't. From then on, we found out about the Normandy massacre. We said, the hell with them.
Yeah.
We're going to kill them all off.
Yeah.
And they were all nasty. They all wanted to fight right up to the last bullet, and then put their hands up and want you to be kind to them. Oh, ooh, I used to get so mad, mad when they did
the
that.
establishment of the SA and the SS. And while the SA and the SS certainly were directly involved in the atrocities that occurred in Germany in World War II, they were not the entire end of the process. They were not the process completely. It was the going from the Jews being citizens in Germany to ending up in concentration camps was a much longer process than just the SA and the SS doing their thing. And I will go into that in the next video, and how those things are very near and in a lot of ways resemble what is happening to the Latino population today. Not entirely exactly, but pretty close and similar in philosophy, purpose, and tact. This is Scott Schneider. I am fed up in Minnesota.